Hey everybody, it is June 23rd today, and I'm actually doing a video for you that is going to come to you in practically real time. Imagine that, something that isn't 6 months old. It's a first for me, I know, it doesn't happen very often. So the point of this whole video is going to kind of focus on animals on the farm and the broiler chicks that we got this spring that we have out on pasture right now, and the goats that we currently have browsing in our pasture. And I've got some clips from the last couple of weeks up to like about a month ago when all this started. So I wanted to make that the subject of the video. But before we get to that, I want to do just a little bit of housekeeping. So two things. Number one, I'm going to try to start releasing a video each week. That's going to help motivate me to actually get through some of this footage and keep you up to date with what we're doing in real time. I think I can manage that if I put it into my weekly schedule and make it a point to do it. I've got my ducks in a row now as far as processing and editing video. I've got a pretty good little system down, and I think it's going to be more manageable than it used to be. So that you can expect new videos, hopefully, to drop every Friday or Saturday. I'm giving myself the option here of one of those 2 days. If I can, I'll do it Friday. If my work week is just too busy, then I'll try to work on it Friday night and have it up by Saturday sometime. So those are some of the expectations I'm setting. So of course this will be this week's. Then I also have some things I'm working on. I'm going to do a whole series on maple syrup season, which was pretty extensive this spring. That just isn't ready yet. I'm still working on getting that all together. And a few other odds and ends. Spring planting. We did some compost extract application stuff this spring that's pretty interesting. Not your typical run-of-the-mill farm stuff. So I really want to make sure we hit those things. So that's all forthcoming. So you can look forward to those. Now, my second order of business involves an event that's coming up here on June 1st. If any of you are fans of the millennial farmer, Zach Johnson, and watch his channel, he's been promoting this a lot. And he's kind of a figurehead for this event. So the last couple of years, he's been helping to organize a campaign that raises money for grain bin rescue and training for fire departments and anyone who would be involved as first responders in a grain bin emergency. Last year they raised quite a bit of money. I think he said north of $60,000, and they distributed it to a bunch of local and regional fire departments and first responders, and it's had a really good positive effect. So they're working on that again this year. Part of that campaign is a concert that's taking place on June 1st called Anderson Bash. It's up near Alexandria. And it's a free concert to attend. The lead acts are going to be Eddie Montgomery from Montgomery Gentry, and Confederate Railroad, and then there's a third band who I can't remember. It's a free concert to attend, but you can definitely throw in a donation upon attendance. And for anyone who's not able to attend or doesn't live anywhere nearby, there is a GoFundMe to be able to make donations for this good cause of grain bin rescue training and equipment. So I am going to put a link down below to that GoFundMe page if you're interested in donating. And anyone who's interested in attending that concert, my wife and I are going to go up there. She has family up in the Fergus Falls area. We like to go up there for 4th of July weekend when we can. And so we're going to head up a little early, and we're going to go to that concert on the 1st. And we're looking forward to it. So hope there's a possibility of seeing some of you there. It'd be a lot of fun. But if you can't attend, seriously consider donating a little bit, even $3, $5, whatever you've got, $10, $20 to the GoFundMe, because it really goes to a good cause. You know, farming is something that those of us who do it love to do, but we don't want to die doing it. And for folks who have to work in and around grain bins, knowing that their local first responders are trained and equipped to be able to save their lives if necessary, that's a comfort, and that's a big help. So anything you can do would be much appreciated. And for any further information, I'll put links below, and you can always refer to, I believe, Zach Johnson has the information on his Millennial Farmer website page as well. So, all right, with that all said, let's talk about some goats and some broiler chickens here on the farm. Hope you enjoy. Hey folks, it's May 24th. It's been a busy couple of days on the farm and at home because Dana and Olivia and I are getting ready to head to Vermont for a week tomorrow. So we had a bunch of stuff to get squared away, trying to take care of a week's worth of chores and responsibilities and make sure that mom and dad have the easiest possible time of it while we're gone. However, we timed this just right. I'll show you what we got today. These noisy little guys showed up today. This is always fun for the folks at the post office who have to put up with a bunch of peeping baby chicks for, you know, a couple of hours until I can get over and pick them up. So I'm going to take these back to the farm and get them squared away in their coop at home where they can be more comfortable and not so, you know, jammed up. All right, well, I got the coop prepped yesterday. Well, actually, Dad and I cleaned everything out of here a couple days ago because we kind of use the coop for storage when there aren't chicks in here. And then we have this little smaller square we assemble so that they stay under the heat lamp a little closer. And when they're little like this, it's good to keep them in a little smaller space. And then as they get bigger, we would normally disassemble that frame, but now we put them out on pasture in a chicken tractor. So usually about the time they're ready to have this square disassembled, that's about the time we put them out on pasture anyway. So now this is going to turn into an unboxing video. I got to get these little guys out, count them up as I'm taking them out of the box so we see how many we actually got. And then we'll get feed and water in here for them and they'll be all squared away. All right, guys, let's set you free. Hello. There you are. You sure are a noisy bunch for being so small. Okay. Find out how many we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 46, 47. Okay, so what that tells me is that we ordered 45, and they always give you a couple extra. So 47. These are an active bunch. Holy smokes. They are hard charging. Look at them go. There we go. They were obviously pretty thirsty after their long trip all the way up from Iowa. We order these Cornish Cross broilers from Welp Hatchery. And I just have to give a little shout out to them because I've always been very, very happy with the quality of the birds that we get from them. This is actually pretty typical. It seems like the last 2 or 3 batches we've gotten from Welp Hatchery, the birds have been really vigorous, they've been really active. I can't say anything about the future of these birds, but the past couple of batches have had really good survivability rates. They're hardy and healthy. I can't say enough good things about Welp's chickens, so we'll continue to be ordering from them. We got one noisy guy in there. It's really loud. So just for context, because I'm so far behind on videos and because there's probably a good number of them from last year that are just never going to get posted to YouTube, or if they do, it'll be in little clips and bits and bytes to accent a point that I'm making or whatever. Last summer, Dana and I did 1 batch of 40 broiler chicks on pasture in a Salatin-style chicken tractor, so a movable pen. That's built, I built it and it's sized correctly for between 50 and 70 chickens. And we did that as sort of a trial balloon business venture to see how well those broilers would sell. Our trial was very successful. Of those birds, we sold everything within a week. And the profit margin seemed worthwhile once we ran the numbers on it. So this year we're gonna try to do 4 batches of between 40 and 50 birds. And in that way, if we space those out, we just have the 1 mobile chicken tractor and the 1 brooder coop here. I would go to larger numbers of birds or build another chicken tractor, but our limiting factor is freezer space right now. So there's some things we can do about that. We could buy another freezer just dedicated to our meat birds, but then we have to stagger our butchering schedule so we don't put too many in at once. Give the ones that are put in the freezer time to cool. So there's a lot of little logistics and things to it that need to be thought through. We can also mitigate some of that maybe by pre-selling a little bit more. Last year we weren't sure how the whole experiment would go, so I hesitated to tell people hey, we're gonna have broiler chickens available. You can pre-purchase or get on a notification list, because I didn't know how it would all go, but it went really successfully. So now this year we could probably be confident enough to let people know in advance we're going to have these birds available, and if we can have some of them pre-sold, that cuts down on the number that go into the freezer too. I know a lot of farms do this where it's like only pick up on the day of butchering so that people are getting really fresh birds. I just don't like that model because it's too much to coordinate. We already will have our hands full on butchering day, and then trying to coordinate people showing up at the farm, that's just a little overwhelming for me. I like to be able to pace things and spread things out a little bit, so I'll certainly give people the option, but I like it to be flexible too, so that if folks can't get here on butchering day, they can come and pick their birds up from us at our house in town, right out of the freezer, within, you know, a week of butchering. And then everything's still pretty darn fresh, and as long as folks don't mind having their chicken frozen, it works out really well. It gives us a little more flexibility, lets us spread the workload out a little bit, and it's just fine. So those are my thoughts on chickens. These guys are growing quick. You know, in the week that we were gone, they're starting to get feathers on their wingtips, and they're real healthy and active. We haven't lost any, which is always amazing. Usually, in my experience, there's like 1 or 2 in a batch that'll be kind of unhealthy right from the get-go, and you know, they just don't last very long. They'll be runty or weak. These are not. These are all really vigorous chickens, so I'm happy with them. And they're going to be in the coop here for another, for sure another week, maybe 2. And then I've got to get the chicken tractor, pasture pen, ready to go. So this is the end of my day, and I think I'll leave it at that. So we'll catch up with you guys tomorrow with goats. All right, have a good night. Well, hello everyone. It's Sunday. It's a couple days later, actually. We had a kind of a busy day off farm yesterday, where we spent part of the day helping install some French doors at my sister's place. So it was a carpentry day and not as much farm work, and mostly what I did yesterday was weeded the garden and kind of dealt with little odds and ends and maintenance type chores. So now today we're back at it with getting ready for the goats. The goats were supposed to arrive yesterday, but the owner had too much going on, so he delayed a day, which is fine. Totally cool with me. And I had a couple of little epiphanies about the setup here for things I wanted to try, which makes it perfect today to give you guys a quick little tour, and then the goats should be arriving later this afternoon. So we've got a spot out here in the pasture with our electro mesh fencing set up. Got a nice big loop going around one of the patches here. This being my first experience with goats, folks have told me they like the older buckthorn and brush, and that the little regrowth from anything that's been cut down is less desirable for them. So I thought, let's just give them a buffet. So the fencing goes around a big patch, half of which is kind of older buckthorn that I haven't cut down yet, and a bunch of, you know, deep kind of woodsy brush, prickly ash and bramble bushes and stuff. And then towards us here, what we're seeing is a patch that I cleared out early this spring, which is just starting to regrow a little bit. So I'm hoping these goats will put some pressure on that. I had started out with 2 rolls of mesh fencing, so that would be a little over 300 feet, and had a smaller enclosure. And then I was thinking about moving the goats when they get stuff browsed down, having to, you know, make another enclosure off of the first one and sort of just hopscotch them across the pasture in that way. And then I remembered, I don't know, it was a fever dream or something that I had, but I kind of thought, you know what? We have this old horse trailer, because we used to have horses here on the farm, and the thing's in kind of rough shape. It's the floorboards are not super great, and it's real rusty, especially around the bottom, but it's hanging together. And every spring, Dad and I use it to go get our seed from the co-op. So we put the corn and soybean seed in there, but the rest of the year it just sort of sits, and it's got decent tires on it, and it moves around just fine. So we pulled that up, and I thought, you know, goats like to have a little shelter if it's rainy or if the weather gets bad. So I thought maybe we can kind of solve a couple of issues all in one shot here. So my thought is, and bear with me because when you're trying to anticipate animals you've never had before, it's just a guessing game. So I don't know how well any of this is going to work. But my thought is, Goats can go in here if the weather's icky or they just want a place to bed down. I put a bale of straw in there for some bedding, and they can get used to going in and out of there. Maybe I'll give them a little slab of alfalfa once in a while, or just a little tiny bit of corn or something to entice them to come in and kind of regard that as a safe place to go. And then when I want to move them, I just have to lure them in and close the door. And while they're in the trailer, I can disassemble the fence, move the trailer to its new spot, wherever that's going to be around the pasture, reset up the fence so that it goes around the trailer, and then just let the goats out. And in that way, I don't have to always have a couple of extra rolls of fence in reserve. I have 4 rolls available, so I can make the enclosure as large or small as I want it to be for any given part of the pasture. And I can work that out while they're safely tucked away in the trailer. Now, of course, we're dealing with animals and my inexperience and their personalities and whatever that may end up being. So if this doesn't all go to plan, that's okay. But I guess I think it's important to try to think things through a little bit and have at least a preliminary idea, and then we can always adapt from there. Well, here they are, folks. 4 goats. Can't see them all. They're kind of hidden in the brush where they're supposed to be. So we've got Snow White, and then we've got 2 black ones in here that are named Whitney and Mariah, and down in the brush is a brown and white one whose name is Suzette, who I think is going to come our way here. There we go. Close up. Hello. They don't care what I do. They seem pretty oblivious for the most part to my wandering around and watching them. They're not super tame, but they'll let you get pretty close before they just move away, which is just fine with me. But they're a lot of fun. They've been through their first night, so they arrived at about 6 or 6:30 yesterday evening, and got them in here and got them settled in. They settled right down, which was nice. I wasn't sure, my experience in the past was with cattle when I was a kid. And, I remember distinctly moving cattle to a new location was always an adventure because they get a little leery and skittish and might run through the fence or whatever. But these guys just, or these gals, just basically hopped off the truck and started eating, which was nice to see. They didn't really require a whole lot of orientation. Well, with the M fixed and a couple of other odds and ends done, I decided to come out here and check on the goats. And now they're in a spot where I can get a much better picture of them for you guys. They decided they were camped out under a cedar tree till just a couple of minutes ago, and then they decided they were going to come and do a little eating in the grass. They even had a little standoff. Snow White here kind of went at it with one of the others. They butted heads and got a little rowdy. So I think they took a little rest, and now they're feeling energized. I'm gonna get out and do a little browsing. Aren't you? Yeah. So here they are. It's the whole crew. I love having these guys here. This is a really great development in my mind. Olivia and I were out here watching them the other day, and we both agreed there's just something not right about a farm without animals. It doesn't feel like a farm if you don't have some animals. So now we've got close to, we got 47 broiler chickens we're taking care of, and we got these 4 goats here. So we're slowly getting our menagerie built up. And this was just great because it gave me the impetus to go ahead and buy the fencing supplies and be able to have these goats here. Worked out really nice, this deal I made with Adam, so that I don't have to worry about having them here in the winter because we don't have the buildings and infrastructure to really house animals for the winter months. But we get to have these guys here for the whole summer as long as this continues to be a good fit. So it's great. I think it's just great. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Thursday, June 16th, and these chickens are just over 3 weeks old now. So it's probably 2 weeks since you last saw them in a video. And they are in the ugly teenager phase, as we say. They're not cute little fluff balls anymore, but they aren't majestic, full-grown white chickens either.
Well, I wouldn't say they're as majestic even when they're full grown.
You don't think chickens are majestic?
Well, not as much.
So it is time today to put them out in the pasture pen. I brought their pasture pen, chicken tractor, whatever you want to call it, up from the pasture where it was stored a few days ago, and have been doing some repairs and modifications to it, and it is ready to go. And these guys could have been out there a week ago, but we've been busy with other things, and so they had to wait. But no time like the present. They're certainly active and vigorous. We are going to move their food and water. I've already taken their food and water out of here. We're going to put that in the pasture pen, get it all ready to go so that they have fresh stuff there, and then we're going to use a big like 20-gallon blue bucket and haul them 4 or 5 at a time and put them in the pen. All right, so here's our pasture pen from last year. Not a whole lot changed. I made 2 changes to it. I painted the tin white on the sides and the top. Last summer we had some really, really hot days, and even with the shiny silver tin, it got really, really hot in here. And the chickens would go under the tin for shade, but then it was almost like an oven. The heat was reflecting down at them, and I felt really bad for them. Minnesota is known for extremes. We're really cold in the wintertime, but we can be really hot and humid in the summertime, and last year we were. So far this summer hasn't been like that with long extended hot spells, but I just wanted to take the precaution. I think that the white metal is going to be more reflective and it'll help keep them more comfortable. So we've got water and food moved up here, and now Olivia and I are going to catch the chickens and bring them up here 4 or 5 at a time. All right. Oh, and the other thing I did last year, I almost forgot, this is pretty important. Last year this pen was pretty hard to move. I didn't have a dolly like some people use to lift up one side. So I engineered this with, we had these wheels laying around the farm, and I added some axle stubs sticking out, and it's actually pretty easy to pick up one corner at a time. And there's just a wing nut on there. So since we only have one pasture pen, this is pretty easy to do, where we can just lift a corner up, put a wheel on, then do the other corner and put that wheel on. And then when you pull from the front, it rolls along pretty nicely. It lifts the pen up 2 inches. So even if there's a hump in the ground, it gives it a little extra clearance to be able to go over that hump in the middle. And if there isn't, if it's flat, it rolls along really nicely, and it doesn't take much effort to move it at all. So I think that's going to be a big improvement, because last year I couldn't really ask Mom or Dad to move the pasture pen because it would have been pretty hard for them. And it was tough for Dana too. I was kind of the only one who could do it. And even then I needed some help, or I'd stick pieces of PVC pipe under it to try to get it to roll. Like some sort of mad Egyptian hauling stone to the pyramids. All right, we've got chickens here that we brought up in the blue bucket. I think, how many were in there, Olivia? 7?
Yeah.
7. 2 of them have gotten out, but nobody knows what grass feels like, so they're all scared of it. Come on. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Come on. I know, it's weird. This is one of my favorite things, because they just don't know what the real world is. They've been in their coop since they first came to the farm. So they sit still and they look at everything and they're not sure. Okay, the move is all done. So now the fun begins, because now these guys have never seen grass. They've never seen direct sunlight. I don't think they've really truly experienced wind. And then all the bugs and things they're gonna find. But it's amazing how they settle in pretty quickly. They're already shuffling around and scuffling in the grass and rooting for stuff and exploring their new environment. So that's pretty nice. They were getting a little aggressive with each other clearly in the smaller pen too, so I think this a little extra space will give them some room to spread out and do their own thing a little bit more. And it was time. The coop was getting kind of dirty. I was reluctant to put down more wood shavings because I knew they were coming out here. So now they can be on some nice clean grass, and they'll get moved every day. So they'll always have a new clean bed of grass each day in the evening. So there we go. Happy chickens. Hey everyone. So Dana and I have been working away here. It's an extremely hot day. We just baled 400 bales of hay yesterday before the heat wave kicked in. And now today is Father's Day. And what better to do on Father's Day than move some goats? Because goats are adorable. And fathers are adorable. So over to my side here is where the goats were until this afternoon. And they browsed a big area down. We've let them, kind of remediate and browse down a whole bunch of buckthorn and some low-growing other plants. And they've done a really good job. And they probably could have stayed out here a little bit longer. But I think they were running out of their favorite foods. And when we would come out here and talk to them and see them, they were letting us know that they needed something. They were bleating at us more and saying, hey, to me, that what they were telling us is we want some fresh food and we want some more of our favorite stuff. And we reconfigured all our mesh net fencing, and now we're going to let the goats out. So they're going to have a new area. We haven't moved the trailer. We kept the trailer and their little housing spot in the same place, and we just shifted their enclosure off to the west a little bit to encompass some fresh stuff. So they're going to get a nice new snack bar today, and they don't know it yet. They've been stuck in the trailer while we've been doing all the fencing. So now we're going to let them out. We're going to see what they do and see how they react to this new space that we've made for them. This is our first time moving them since we got them on the farm, so I don't know how this is going to go. Dana doesn't know how it's going to go.
The very first goats react.
Right, the very first goats react. I guess they did react to their first enclosure, but this is the first time moving them to a new spot since they've been here. So let's let them out and see what happens.
There's Whitney. Here comes the leader of the pack, Suzette. Followed by Mariah. And then Whitney and Mariah always almost together. And last but not least, well, last and kind of least, Snow White, because she's low lady on the totem pole. And look at that, right into the treats.
They're just going to disappear into the buckthorn.
And
we'll
then
see them in a week or two.
I was gonna say, and then in a week there just won't be any buckthorn. And it's fabulous. Buckthorn removal without fossil fuels, with additional fertilizer dropped in place. Not bad.
No labor.
There we go.
They get to work while I get to do something else.
So what are you gonna do now, farmer?
I'm gonna sit in the shade for a while. I think we both agreed. We both got pretty overheated doing this, and it's not that hard of work, so it kind of tells you how hot and humid it is today. So we're probably going to take a little break here, and it is Father's Day after all, so there should be some relaxation. Well, I wanted to follow up here with a little segment on the goats, just to give you an idea of how much damage 4 goats can do in just a few days. We let these goats into their new area on Father's Day Sunday, and it is now the following Wednesday. So they've had like 3.5 days in here, basically. It's the end of the day on Wednesday, so 3 full days and part of a day on Sunday to just do what they do. And a couple of those days were really hot and the goats weren't super active. Of course, I wasn't checking on them either. I was fixing a U-joint on my truck for the last 2 days, so they've been kind of doing their thing. And now I was just coming out here to spend a little time and see what they'd gotten up to. But anyway, I'm going to flip the camera, and you can already see quite a difference in the amount of foliage here. All right, so this is kind of, it's a good moment to capture this because they're almost in the same spot that they were when we let them in here on Sunday. There's their water bucket, and the trailer is right here. So you may recognize this spot. When we let them go, they went into the woods right in here and just sort of disappeared because there were so many leaves on this buckthorn. And now they're kind of at the edge of it now, but you can see this is just today, because I was out here yesterday and none of these stems had their leaves eaten. A lot of the buckthorn leaves right in this area have been nibbled away. So you can see about, I'd say 50% of the leaves are gone. Oh, hey, they heard me talking to the camera and they all decided to come over and say hi. Hello, everyone. See, they're not tame, so I can't reach out and pet them. But they heard my voice and they decided that this was an okay time to come over and say hi, right? Oh, we got a little touch there. That's it, though. Then they back away. They'll get better. So yeah, this is just really cool, I think, that they can be out here and they're working away and clearing this area, and I don't have to be doing anything, and they're making progress on reducing our buckthorn problem and opening up our pasture. The ultimate goal is to get permanent perimeter fencing up and to be able to raise any kind of livestock out here we like, whether that's more goats or whether it's cattle in the future, or I've even dabbled with the idea of sheep. It all just depends on what pencils out economically, what allows us to get in started up with without having to break the bank on input costs, and what makes the most sense ecologically. So I have to say, this foray into goats has been a really good one so far. I was definitely nervous about it going into it because we'd never had goats. I wasn't familiar with them. A lot of people have told me they're real escape artists, and I was concerned because we're borrowing them and we haven't purchased the goats. We don't own them, but it is our responsibility to take care of them. So, you know, the general rule is if they get out and disappear, it's on me. So that made me a little leery. It's very fair, I think. That's a good rule, but it did make me a little worried. But the owner of the goats, who has much more experience with them, said, as long as they have plenty to eat, this mesh fencing is identical to what they have at his place. They recognize the boundaries. So make sure that they have enough to eat and plenty of water and a salt block and some shelter. They don't even get shelter where they're coming from, so having the trailer is kind of a luxury for them. And they'll be fine. And I have found that definitely to be the case. They don't seem to have any interest in getting out as long as there's enough to eat. So as long as I move them regularly, keep an eye on them, make sure they're doing okay, and I check them pretty much every day, they seem perfectly happy. And so far, I've been really pleasantly surprised at just how simple it is. If I had to do more complicated work with them, you know, if we were on a breeding program or if I had to look at keeping them for the winter or anything like that, it would be a whole different story. But to just be able to have them on the property for the summer and then be able to send them back home during the winter months when they would need a permanent enclosure and some shelter and regular chores and feeding, this is a pretty good deal. And I'm very happy with it, and I'm looking forward to, here they come, I'm looking forward to seeing what they can accomplish. And actually, I'm kind of looking forward to working with them. Every time I come in here, I work with them a little bit, and I'm hoping by the end of the summer, they'll at least be willing to be petted a little bit and, you know, have some scratches. Even if they aren't, you know, ready to be put on a lead line and shown at the county fair, they'll at least be a little bit more friendly towards people. Hey, Suzette, what are you doing? Look at you. They love to jump up on the trailer fenders and on the front platform there. I'm pretty sure they're going to tear the wires off before the summer's over, but yeah, the lights don't work anyway, so it is what it is. Well, folks, that's your introduction to the goats and my thoughts and impressions on having them around so far. I'm in the midst of mulching the potato patch here, and I need to try to finish that up because I'm losing the light. So I'm going to work on that, and I will see you the next time around. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good one.